Good evening and welcome to BATV News. I'm Andrew Laidley. CEO of the telecoms company Carousel, Lowell Lawrence, says the company did formally advise Telecommunications Minister Dr. Andrew Wheatley of the company's sale to South African company Involution Limited. In a statement today, Lawrence said Carousel informed Dr. Wheatley of the decision on October 4 last year. However, Company Secretary Attorney Minette Lawrence adds that the decision to sell shares in a private company does not require regulatory approval. This after Dr. Wheatley said on Friday that he did not approve the sale, which he says is required by law. Carousel says they've been fully compliant with every request for information from the minister, and they say the decision to sell was made in the best interest of the company. They say the choice of investor is comparable or superior to the choices made when Centennial, MyPhone, Claro, Decal, Flow, and Cable and Wireless took on other owners. Now they're also asking why Minister Wheatley remained silent when Cable and Wireless purchase of Flow placed the entire supply of internet bandwidth to the island under the control of one company. Cable and Wireless completed its acquisition of Flow in March 2015, a month after the Andrew Holness administration came to power. Shareholders of Cable and Wireless Jamaica CWJ have less than 48 hours to accept the cash offer made by owner CWC Kala Limited. Jamila Maitland reports.
CWC Kala Limited has offered to purchase the more than 3 billion shares owned by minority shareholders in Jamaica, the Caribbean, and the diaspora. The cash offer is outlined in the offer circular released on December 28, 2017. The original deadline was January 31, but has since been extended to this Wednesday, February 28. Shareholders have the opportunity to sell to CWC at a premium price of $1.45 per share. Research and Structured Product Analyst at NCB Capital Markets, Sekou Crawford, says there are benefits to accepting the offer.
The offer price is above our valuation of Cable and Wireless Jamaica. Two, investors, if they don't accept, they run the risk of holding an illiquid stock. And illiquid just means that that's a stock that's not trading on a recognized trading system.
Crawford says it would be difficult to sell shares in an illiquid company.
You would have to go out and find somebody and negotiate a price at which you'd want to sell the shares. And it's unlikely that anybody would want to buy shares from you in an illiquid company.
CWC and its affiliate Kelfanora Limited owns 82% of the ordinary shares in CWJ. The remaining 18% is held by some 25,000 shareholders, which gives them the right to delist from the Jamaica Stock Exchange. CWJ would not say how many shareholders have already accepted the offer. According to Offer Circular, under the Companies Act, if CWC gets at least 90% of the minority's share, then they automatically acquire all the shares of the company. For BATV News, I'm Jamila Maitland.
Members of the Jamaica Medical Doctors Association, JMDA, have voted to accept the latest wage offer from the government. The JMDA held an extraordinary general meeting last evening at which the decision to accept was taken. However, JMDA President Dr. Elon Thompson says they have yet to finalize the agreement with the government. The proposal includes a 16% salary increase over 4 years, along with improved NHT benefits and allowances. The JMDA has been at the negotiating table with the government for several months. Here's more. The government recently proposed two options to the JMDA. Both options span 4 years and accumulate to a total increase of 16% for the contract period. The doctors voted to accept option 2, a 5% increase in year 1, 2% in year 2, 4% in year 3, and 5% in year 4. JMDA President Dr. Elon Thompson said members of his association took a vote on the offers yesterday and the results will be brought to the Finance Ministry soon.
The government is in dialogue with us, the Jamaica Medical Doctors Association, about the recent wage negotiations. We have had further meetings with the Ministry of Finance on this, and we're very close to coming up with an offer that we think is acceptable to our members. We brought it to the membership and we voted on Sunday, February 25th. The results of the voting will be submitted to the Ministry of Finance in short order.
Dr. Thompson said he understands that it will be hard for the government to offer more than 16%.
Well, it's going to be a case if the government is willing and able to accept to offer more than 16%. It is our understanding that it is a difficult task to give more than 16%. Not impossible, but difficult. So we are understanding of the government's position. Our aim is not to be counterproductive with these negotiations. Our aim is to come to common ground. The Prime Minister has stated this when he spoke to us.
In the meantime, the JMDA president says he hopes the government has been fair in coming up with its offers, noting that he expects them to meet doctors halfway.
I think the government has been trying. The government can always do better, I think. But we have to really consider what we want from the negotiations and how we can assist the process, because we can't draw out this process for too long, and we have to be fair. The government must know as employers if they are being fair, and they have done their best to meet us halfway. It is not for me to judge as the president of the organization if they have met us halfway.
For BATV News, I'm Andrew Laidley. And when we come back, the first 3D seismic oil tests to be done in Jamaica. This and more after the break. Welcome back. Tullow Oil is to start the first ever 3D seismic surveys to look for oil offshore Jamaica next month. According to the Petroleum Corporation of Jamaica, PCJ, it will be the most advanced and detailed research ever in Jamaica. A marine geophysical company, Polarcus, will be generating 3D images of rocks beneath the ocean floor to identify potential oil and gas. PCJ says the survey is expected to take 50 days and another 6 to 12 months for processing. Tullow Country Representative to Jamaica, Joachim Volk, says the study is not expected to affect marine species and protected areas. He says the survey will be conducted in deep water, which should reduce the impact on marine life. PCJ General Manager Winston Watson says he's certain that the research will provide definitive and scientific results. The private sector organization of Jamaica, PSOJ, is welcoming the recent tabling of the Occupational Health and Safety Bill by the Minister of Labor and Social Security. PSOJ President Howard Mitchell says he's looking forward to a robust and healthy debate and the passage of the bill into law at an early date. Mr. Mitchell says the legislation, along with a much-delayed sexual harassment bill, will be a significant signal of Jamaica's reform of its labor legislation and its commitment to equitable, safe, and harmonious working conditions. However, the PSOJ is also urging the government to expedite the processing of the martial law-led Labor Market Reform Commission report. In a statement today, the organization said the report appears to have disappeared into the bureaucratic labyrinth on its journey towards cabinet consideration. They're calling on the Labor Minister, Shahini Robinson, to apply her forceful will to move the report through its channels and for public discussions. Effective today, the Transport Authority has opened up over 4,000 spaces on 768 routes island-wide. The Transport Authority says the decision was made to satisfy the high demands for public transport services under serviced routes and requests from commuters. The new routes include Portmore Mall to Portmore Villa in St. Catherine, Maypen to Glenmuir Housing Scheme in Clarendon, and Mandeville to Moorlands in Manchester. Meanwhile, the Transport Authority is advising public service operators without road licenses to ensure they legalize their services now to avoid prosecution. The authority is also advising individuals that they shouldn't do business with people claiming to be agents of the Transport Authority because no employee at the authority has the power to grant licenses. They say this responsibility lies with the authority's licensing committee. And when we come back, this and more in regional and international news. Stay with us. Welcome back. It's time now for regional and international news. Antiguans and Barbudans will go to the polls on March 21. Prime Minister Gaston Brown made the announcement during a campaign rally over the weekend. More in this report from ABS-TV.
A large crowd of ABLP supporters gathered at the Rising Sun grounds to hear the announcement. Prime Minister Brown has advised that Parliament will be dissolved on Monday. Then on Tuesday, the writ of elections will be issued.
I'm giving them 21 days to give them 17. None! So, the date of the next general elections will be Wednesday, March 21st.
On March 21st, eligible voters will have the opportunity to cast their ballots to determine who will hold the reins of power for another term. The elections are called well before they are constitutionally due in 2019. Prime Minister Brown told the gathering the reason he decided to call a snap poll.
Our primary focus for calling elections early is not about politics. It is about your development. I want you to understand what is happening in this country today. Presently, we have approximately $1.5 billion of investment programmed for 2018. Just for this year alone, $1.5 billion. That's right. My dear people, we have to protect that. We have to protect those investments from those who seek to burn this country into ashes.
Prime Minister Brown says over the past 3.5 years, his government has made significant progress and will continue to do so.
Come 2018, this country's economy is projected by both the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank and the Caribbean Development Bank to grow by at least 5.6%. And again, making Antigua and Barbuda the fastest growing economy in the Caribbean. Let's hear it for Team Labour.
Puerto Rico's Governor Ricardo Rosselló has been visiting the U.S. mainland looking for financial support for the island battered by hurricanes last year. Rosselló is pushing for the privatization of public sector businesses in Puerto Rico, but many are skeptical it will help. The track record of privatization in the wake of disasters is spotty, and Puerto Rico's history with utility privatization has many fearing it will be big for businesses and not for the residents that benefit from rebuilding. Al Jazeera's Shiha Bertansi reports.
Ricardo Rosselló says investors should take advantage of Puerto Rico's opportunities.
Whoever wants to come to Puerto Rico and can enjoy the benefits of Puerto Rico, come to Puerto Rico.
The governor plans to privatize Puerto Rico's electricity grid, though how shareholders will make a profit even as they invest in a reliable electricity source for all hasn't been explained. Puerto Rico's own history is cautionary. In the 90s, Governor Rosello's father privatized the water system when he was governor, a failure that polluted the environment and raised prices. Authorities eventually retook control, having paid two French multinational companies hundreds of millions of dollars.
It's this whole idea that their public utilities are mismanaged because they're public and you just sell them off and then everything is going to be great for everyone, even though there's this clear example of they privatized water services and things just got a lot worse.
So why do you think it's not mentioned?
Because all the people involved in this privatization process and the banks and the advisors, they all get paid out of the fees.
There is a suspicion that what's being attempted is a classic case of what's known as disaster capitalism, the use of the aftermath of a natural disaster to push through the privatization of essential services, something Wall Street always wants but can't always get due to democratic popular opposition. Post-Katrina New Orleans is cited as an example. Public housing was sold off to private developers who'd long coveted the land, and schools were privatized, resulting in a decline in educational performance amid a rise in private profits. And Governor Rosello has already said he intends to privatize Puerto Rico's schools.
Millions and millions of dollars of our public debt are not invested in our school, are not money invested in our health system, where money earned by this financial institution.
Alternatives to the neoliberal Wall Street model for Puerto Rico's reconstruction have been offered.
As I look at the board's proposal, it is really putting unambiguous priority one, how much can we squeeze out of the island? And I think that's morally wrong.
Nobel economic laureate Joseph Stiglitz, for example, says austerity and privatization will make matters worse. Growth will only be achieved through government investment. But that's made little dent in a narrative of an inevitably privatized future for Puerto Rico. Shia Bertansi, Al Jazeera, Washington.
The North American Free Trade Agreement has been in the headlines lately, with U.S. President Donald Trump threatening to pull out of it. But while economists have praised economic growth brought about by the trade deal between the United States, Canada, and Mexico, healthcare workers in Mexico say the pact has had disastrous consequences. Al Jazeera's David Mercer reports from Mexico City.
Like many Mexicans these days, Vianney Huerta's first stop on her way to work is here, a convenience store. Sweetened yogurt, cookies, and a Jell-O cup make for a breakfast on the go. It's a trend the 30-year-old teacher says is impacting her health and that of her colleagues and students.
There are more children who are overweight, who have diabetes and hypertension. I see too many students, too many families with poor nutrition. We don't know how to eat properly.
Mexicans are hooked on junk food, and the impact has been devastating. Over the past 25 years, obesity rates have tripled, and diabetes is now the leading cause of death in the country. Eating habits in Mexico began to change in the 1980s because of an increase in foreign investment. But this transformation really took off 10 years later with the signing of NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement. Health experts say Mexico became a dumping ground for cheap, low-nutrient, highly processed foods from the United States, causing diets here to mirror those of their northern neighbors.
All the metabolic damage we see in our society today is caused by the consumption of high fructose corn syrup, processed baked goods, sugary drinks, and more. It's all connected with the industrialization of food in Mexico. The money route explains the causes of obesity perfectly.
Vianney's mother, Luz Maria, has witnessed this change firsthand. She says persuading her family to eat traditional food like tortillas is an uphill battle.
These days, most young women don't like to cook. They prefer the ease of buying pizza or Kentucky Fried Chicken instead of making rice and beans. Instead of making lemonade, they buy Coke or another soft drink. The changes have been bad.
Without government intervention, Mexico's health crisis is expected to get worse. Advocates say future trade agreements should take health into account, protecting the very people they're supposed to help. David Mercer, Al Jazeera, Mexico City.
Talking Stocks is after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. It's time now for Talking Stocks. 51 stocks traded today, of which 18 advanced, 26 declined, and 7 traded firm. The main JC index declined by 270 points to close at 290,610. The junior index also declined by 11 points to close at 2,916. 11 million units traded, valued at over $157 million on the Jamaican dollar market, and there was no trading on the US dollar market today. Sagicor Group, with 1.9 million units changing hands, accounted for 16% of the market volume. Jamaica Producers Group was second with 1.7 million units trading, and Elite Diagnostic, with 1.2 million units, accounted for 10% of the market volume. ISP Finance Services was a top advancer, up $1.63 to close at $11.63, followed by Cable and Wireless Jamaica, up 13 cents to close at $1.38, and Caribbean Producers up 34 cents to close at $4.39. The main decliners were Caribbean Cream, down 83 cents to close at $6.17, followed by 138 Student Living, losing 60 cents to close at $5.40, and Pulse Investments, down 19 cents to close at $1.80. In foreign exchange trading, the Jamaican dollar lost ground on the US today, but gained on the Canadian and British pound. The US ended the day selling for $127.68, gaining 24 cents on the Jamaican dollar. The Canadian lost a cent to close the day at $98.58, and the British pound lost $2.19 to the Jamaican dollar to end the day at $175.67 on average. And that's the news, but before we go, a recap of our top story. CEO of telecoms company Carousel, Lowell Lawrence, says the company formally advised Telecommunications Minister Dr. Andrew Wheatley last October of the company's sale to South African company Involution Limited. Dr. Wheatley has said he never approved the sale. Thanks for watching. For more content, please visit our website at batvja.com. I'm Andrew Laidley. Pleasant viewing.